Happy Friday, everyone. I I don't think I'm going to be able to maintain doing daily videos, but with the crazy growth and a few people even signing up to be patrons this week, I feel extra invigorated to continue to pump out content after I get home from work. So sorry that these videos actually get out kind of late at night. Sometimes I like to hold them to the next day, but it seems like most of you are still up when I put them out. So we're going to get into it regardless. I watched a couple of live streams yesterday about the problem with the skeptic community. Problem, of course, being, overstated, and skeptic community also being the same. But I navigated my way through about 4 hours of live stream. Both where Andy Warski was on another fellow stream, and then he had an afterwards stream. And I think I'm uniquely equipped to share actually some advice, even though my channel at this point is really small. But at bare minimum, some insight as a fan of a lot of these creators. So 2 years ago, like many of you, I kind of fell hard for this community. Guys like Dave Cullen, Andy Warski, some black guy, that guy T, Tildeer, Bearing. I mean, the list goes on and on. Harmful opinions. And it was great. It was a super interesting time to be on YouTube. It seemed like there was another really interesting commentator coming up every couple of days. And, I continue to be subscribed to actually most of the people that I started up being subscribed to. Over the months, I've added some and dropped some as well. But that's just the nature of the beast. As someone who's actually been YouTubing for over 10 years, I've had a wide variety of channels. I feel like I can add some insight as to why things at least seem like they may have gone downhill. And yes, in my opinion, it actually has gone downhill. The quality, while I think is about the same as it's always been, the content doesn't have the same feel, the same passion, the same energy as it did 6 months ago or a year ago. First, out of respect now for the seemingly really hypersensitive folks about this label as a skeptic, I want to define basically who I'm talking about here. There seems to be this common thread of offense to that terminology, a skeptic community. People like Andy Warski or some black guy, Monday Matt, Jeff Holiday, they all seem really repulsed by if anyone calls them a skeptic or in the skeptic community. And I totally understand not wanting to get lumped into a group with other people, wanting to be unique, but also understand that in my experience, this term, this skeptic community term, is really a time-saving term, a descriptive term, not really a pejorative one. And I do find it, it's not like they're calling you Nazis or something. That I obviously could, I could understand why you'd be so offended by it. But, in general, I just want to say when I say skeptic community, I'm referring to somebody that I've already mentioned above. And I don't really understand why some of these creators that I really like still, obviously, like some black guy or Andy Warski, in this most recent case, are so touchy about the label when they use labels freely to group people together that they talk about as well. Alt-right or social justice warrior or feminists. Labels are tricky, but they're not inherently evil. So, it seems a little hypocritical, and I know that's a really tedious complaint, but it's I think a valid one that I don't think there's anything inherently bad with being called a skeptic or being in the skeptic community, unless of course people are using it in a negative manner. Now, I want to address two main points out of about 4 hours of streams. One that I agree with, one that I disagree with. And offer my humble opinion as a longtime subscriber to these people, as well as a longtime YouTuber. Because I think overall I'm very optimistic about the future of a lot of these creators. people subscribe to the person, not necessarily always the content. And in my experience, people will stick around because they form a bond with you and you form a bond with them. And I think these people will kind of figure things out, actually probably sooner than later. So first, I want to start with the point that I disagree with, and that is a criticism leveled at the skeptic community by a few members that I would also lump in that same group, that they spend too much time on like low-hanging fruit or ponage videos and don't produce more well-researched like educational type pieces. While there are people that do that, I think it's fair to say that the most popular people don't. The most popular people are more on the deconstruction or entertainment side of it, and less on the educational side of it. Now, I definitely disagree that it's the responsibility of these in the skeptic quote community to produce educational or documentary style pieces, investigative reporting. It's not any one creator's responsibility to create content for anyone. Part of the biggest appeal is here on YouTube is that we can create the content that we want to create. I mean, there are channels that will always be bigger than mine that are literally videos of Asian people eating food. And that's okay. That's the videos they want to make. And, you know, I don't think it's fair to tell them or expect them to create any other type of content other than the content that they enjoy creating. And to be totally honest, I think this is one of those requests that gets filled and then people regret it, because you can always spot when a creator is creating something that their heart's not into. You know, the more scripted, the more fish out of water the content is, it gets cringy. And, you know, I think the solution isn't necessarily people that grew their channels by being more entertaining than educational to just flip to educational. I think I think there's something valid to mixing it in. But at the end of the day, YouTube is about entertainment. It's about being interesting, and educational is like secondary. People have to be entertained first. Now, if education is your entertainment, sure, but it's also why some of these channels that toil away and work way harder than a lot of other people just never get big. They never get a reach. So if you want to change people's minds, you have to get the reach. So you have to be entertaining to get the reach. The most popular channels on YouTube are not like documentary film channels. They're people who are entertaining. And, you know, I don't really understand. You know, I think if you want to use a good example, I think both Bering and Sargon of Akkad have done a good job slowly transitioning. And more specifically, even Sargon, where he puts out like a nice shit post that makes everyone laugh, but then all of a sudden he'll hit you with, you know, a 60-minute, well thought out scripted video full of facts and figures. And while those videos aren't always appreciated by the vast majority of his subscribers, a huge chunk of them will still watch it and get the message. I think this is far more appropriate than to demand those in the skeptic community change the type of content they make, because we are who we are. And I guess it's fair to lump myself in with that, although I prefer the terminology like commentator as opposed to skeptic, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so there's a second point brought up in these videos about how the channels are, quote, dying, or at least plateauing. And this is vehemently denied by both Andy and Derek, talking about how channels are growing and they're successful. And to be honest, again, this is not a knock on any one of these people. They're all creators I really enjoy. But this is just maybe a helpful dose of reality. But let's look at Andy Warski. Now, social data is very suspect, but at least it can be, if we use it for everybody, it can be a bit of a north. Andy has about 200, everyone, I picked just 4 that are all randomly roughly the same size. They all have about 250,000 subscribers, and let's look at their growth rate currently. Now, we can only go back to, you know, late October, but you can already see Andy's adding an average of 92 subscribers a day out of 250,000. Just to give you an example, that is what? 0.04% growth rate. And you can see Andy's had his channel for a long time. It pretty much always kind of steadily grew or did nothing. And then he blew up here in July. Obviously he didn't have negative 5 million subscribers, but you can look at, views, but look at the subscribers here. He blew up in July. Let's call it summer of 16. He went from averaging, 300-400 subscribers a day to thousands per day for months on end. Now let's look at some black guy. Same thing, 250,000 subscribers, adding 234 a day. But again, that's still hardly any as a percentage of the reach that he has. Just mathematically, I'm saying, I'll be happy if my channel adds this many per day, But again, this is a very small percentage. If you look at his data, here we go. Where does he peak? June, July 2017. And it's been pretty steady decline ever since, or at least a plateau. Like, I would say, Derek's channel is a little different than everyone else's because he's many peaks and valleys for the year of 2016. But in more recent months, you can see clearly a downward trend. And then here's Andy Warski. I mean, he falls off a cliff. He actually had negative subscribers in September, right? Again, this is no disrespect. This is something I entirely understand. I have channels that have 150,000 subscribers that basically died overnight, and I'll never know why. Now let's look at Dave Cullen, another person I really respect. Again, 250,000 subscribers. It's no coincidence that everyone's about the same size. Adding just 200 a day as a percentage, that's exceedingly small. Here we go. July 2016, he added 30,000 subscribers in a month. Again, June, July was the heyday, and then it's been pretty steady, although he's had a little spike here in October, and that's good. But I do think Dave is actually doing a good job varying up his content. Most of his videos in the past couple months have been about like Star Trek and Orwell and video reviews. I think he has actually recognized this, and he's trying to pivot. Then we can look at Blaire White. These are people that often stream together, right? She has more than everyone else, but again, 355,000 subscribers, adding just 150 a day. Extraordinarily small percentage, and these views are like, I don't know how much I trust these views. The only number I really trust in here is subscribers because I can independently verify it with my own. I find that my view count isn't really even close to this, but maybe on, an aggregate, 39,000 views a day for a channel with 400K subscribers. Again, same here. Now, Dave is doing better, but I think, again, Dave is pivoting. Here, same thing, 40,000 views a day. It's remarkable how similar they are, 50,000 views. They're all within the same exact wheelhouse. And then, here we go with Blaire. She got big when? April, May, June, July of 2016. And now, ever since January of 17, it's been a steady decline, adding just 5,000 subscribers. Now, again, everything in perspective, I would be very happy to have my channel at 5,000 subscribers. But I'm just saying the numbers don't lie. I would be almost certain if I added another 10 YouTubers that came up around the same time, we would see this exact same graph continue to happen over and over again. So the real question is, why is this happening? Well, I have a couple of theories about that. It's clear each channel, with the exception of Dave Cullen, is either dormant or experimenting with new things. First, I know like Warski and them, they've all kind of done these live shows, which I think is a great way to interact with fans. It also is a convenient way to offset lost earnings because the super chats are such a big part of that. A genius rollout by YouTube, even though I'm a huge unfan of the fact that they take like 30% of that. Most people don't know that, but they take a huge chunk of super chats. Now, for the creators, it's still awesome, but YouTube's dipping a little deep there. And, I think as long as these channels stay productive, they're smart people, they're going to find their new niche. Now, as a fan, as a viewer, I can share a couple of reasons why I think things continue to be stagnant. I've popped into a lot of these like 3, 4, 5 hour live streams. And to be honest, if I just use, for example, the Candace live stream, it's really high school. It's really drama. She's a B, she's a fake ass B, blah, 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 like name calling everyone on the stream. And, I just think it's a huge turnoff for me. I know I'm not above that. Believe me, I'm just being an outside, being a viewer on the outside. And if you really want a really uncomfortable watch, go find like an archive of the live stream they did with that crazy hair YouTuber back at VidCon, where it's basically like Blaire and Andy screaming at this girl for an hour straight as people give super chat donations, begging them to stop or take it offline. Like, I think these conversations, while not productive, I mean, they happen and it's not a big deal. But the fact that they happen live for everyone to see, I think that does hurt the brand. Now, who the hell am I, right? I don't care. I'm just sharing as a fan. I'm ultra turned off by that. It's not the type of content that I want to see. It feels petty, and like I said, believe me, I get catty at times, and sling insults. But doing it on a public stream is a little weird. Here's the thing. Like I said earlier, the landscape has changed, but these people are all very smart. A lot of what I think it is they're bored. They've won the fight. They won the fight against you. They won the fight against, YouTube theists. They won the fight against YouTube feminists. They won the fight against flat earthers. They won the fight against, hollow core whatevers. There's just no good target anymore, and they probably feel, and I don't know any of these people directly. Hopefully, I'll meet some of them over the months or whatever. They probably feel bored, uninterested, and that's why these like kind of low energy hangout streams happen, because it's just something to do. It generates some money. You get to connect with your fans, but the level of content, there's still crazy people out there to quote pwn. If you want to, if that's the type of content you want to make. I enjoy that kind of content, as long as, I can learn a little something out of it. But, using Andy or some black guy, as an example, they're lol cows, Francesca Ramsey, Cat Black, they're gone. Antifa is a dead meme. Black Lives Matter, dead meme. The only thing left out there right now is like alt-right, and it just doesn't, it's not as interesting to people. Maybe that's worth exploring, but the reason I'm optimistic is when there is a cause to fight for. It's like they're like lions in a zoo, and they have to find this new kind of thing to fight for, and I think the content's going to come back really quick. Why I'm so confident about this is you only need to look at the red pill black scenario. I mean, Warski came alive and did like 4 or 5 really good videos on the situation. Some black guy was hosting live streams. Blaire White was on Rubin Report. I mean, everyone sprung up and came to life again and was creating content. But unless there's like this consistent battle for them, I can see where you get lethargic and you get complacent. And I've gone through that as a creator. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I have a channel, go look for it, with like 120 or 150,000 subscribers of just me playing the claw machine. And I got bored with it, and the subscribers left, and I never really rebranded it, and the channel is dead. I get it. It's probably, I mean, how many wrecked feminist videos can you do? How many, Antifa videos can you do? How many times can you make fun of Trump? I mean, these things get boring. I completely understand that. But and I think that encapsulates the problem with the skeptic community right now. But I think the good ones, like basically all the people I mentioned, and of course I'm not excluding ones I didn't mention, but just these are the ones I feel like I know the best as content creators because I've been subscribed so long. They're going to figure it out. And so I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a problem. It's just that there's not a worthy foe right now. Certainly the election cycle coming up in a year or two will probably wake a lot of these people up. But if they want to learn anything from Clawstruck, you got to find something else to entertain your subscribers to keep them around until that next thing happens. So I don't have the answer, but I just thought maybe this would be helpful. I don't know if any of these people will ever see this video, but I thought it would be helpful maybe to share as a subscriber what I think might improve things. So, I'm definitely interested in hearing what you think in the comment section down below. Thank you all for all the support, and thank you for your patronage and always sharing the videos. I appreciate that. And I guess we'll talk to you on Monday, unless something else comes up.